Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dan, the voice behind ThatKaitoDan, and welcome to my review for RWBY Volume 4 Chapter 8, a much needed talk. Remember, as ever, this review will contain spoilers for the episode in question, and the show as a whole, so please watch with caution. Anyway, before we sang in the new year and said good riddance to the previous, Rooster Teeth dropped one last RWBY episode for 2016. We had some interesting moments with Ozpin and Oscar, some drama aplenty with the Shnees, and a high-octane fight over an Oniyuri. With the year coming to a close and the insane ride that we had last time out, did Rooster Teeth wrap up 2016 on a high, or did it trip its way into 2017? Let's find out. We open on a very nervy and tense situation with Team Ranger and a wounded Crow, who while bandaged has given the youngsters the lowdown off screen about Salem, the seasonal maidens, and more. Good, as honestly a lot of it would have been information that we already know, and it saves from the episode's runtime being wasted. But it's clear the four are still trying to take in the information they just gained, understandably so, though Jean's notably a little stern-faced. Crow's accepting of the group's reactions either way and clears up a few of their questions regarding the maidens, notably saying that the souls of the old and the new maiden during a transfer combine their souls, similar to what looks to be going on with both Ozpin and Oscar. Interesting that the soul merger is a thing for the maidens, no matter what, given the attempted forced transfer for Pyrrha having that fear about what would happen with the souls merging there. But that does make me wonder if Amber's soul is merged with Cinder and she's able to speak to her, like how Ozpin is with Oscar. Of course, this whole thing with the previous full maiden really has Jean's feathers ruffled, who sees Pyrrha's attempts to be the successor as one forced upon her by Crow and the others. Can't blame him really for being angry, but Crow does highlight as tough as the choice was, it was still Pyrrha's to choose in the end, and she made the final call. It doesn't make the situation any less painful or messy, but that's how it went down, even if Jean isn't too happy to hear it. Perhaps now fully understanding the mental struggle that Pyrrha was facing back when they had their conversation before the tournament finals. Crow also clears up why Tyrion was on the hunt for RWBY due to her unique silver eyes, and why Crow has followed them from afar, to keep an eye out on RWBY and the others, knowing full well that they would likely be targeted soon enough. It explains a little why he's kept his distance from Team Ranger as they travelled, but RWBY does ask why he didn't travel with them as a group. The still peeved Jean seeing it as Crow using RWBY as bait to draw their enemies out. Keeping out of shot would mean that Crow would have had the element of surprise in hand for retaliation, though the huntsman himself does say that it's a little bit more complicated than that. That's the key word here, complicated. This whole thing with the maidens, the skulls being attacked, and RWBY being hunted for silver-eyed warrior power, it's a pretty wild deal to say the least. And it's time for Team Ranger to hear what it's all about, why all of this is happening right now. And it's also time at last that we finally hear some insight on a topic that's only been briefly touched on in the past. Religion in Remnant. According to Crow, while not many people are super religious these days, the world has been going on for so long that, naturally, people have created gods or beliefs to worship. But if what Ozpin says is true, then there's only two gods that are real. In a fantastic blend of the World of Remnant presentation and shadows, Crow describes two warring god brothers. One of light, the eldest, who made forces of life such as water, plants, and wildlife, while the youngest brother was the god of darkness, who rose at night seeing what his brother created and hated it, bringing in his forces of destruction like famine, fire, and drought to wash it all away and start things anew. One day, the younger brother made his richest creation of pure darkness, a foe to life that shared his hunger for destruction, the creatures of Grimm. Detailing the Grimm's origin if this tale is indeed true for the first time. This vicious cycle continued endlessly until the eldest brother sought an end to it all and convinced the god of darkness into one last creation, not by himself, but together. This one shared masterpiece would become humanity itself, able to do what both brothers could do, create and destroy. with the gift of knowledge too, so they can learn about everything, not just itself, but the world around them. And most importantly, they had the freedom and ability to choose what they do with these gifts. Follow the path of light or the path of darkness. It's great that we finally hear something about religion in the world of Remnant, even if a lot of it is still a mystery. Without greater information, even the characters in the show itself don't know if there truly is gods, or if that was truly how humanity or the Grimm came into being. But it's a belief that helps the world feel more lifelike to us, seeing a world that has so much history to it beyond the current age of our heroes. Of course, I have to mention that it seems the RWBY have shaped the Warring God Brothers after the iconic pair of the Brothers Grimm, who among many of their notable accomplishments, collected and published a ton of folk tales that we know of today, like Cinderella, Snow White, and Sleeping Beauty to name a few. To me, they couldn't have picked a better inspiration for gods of a world with a lot of its populace also inspired by names in the world of folklore. Of course, this is all well and good, but it doesn't answer Team Ranger's questions about what's going on in the world right now. Except it kinda does. See, the key elements that the gods gave humanity, creation, destruction, knowledge, and choice, aren't just phrases. They actually have physical forms in the world, left behind by the gods before leaving. Powerful forms that, as you can guess, could be used in very bad ways if found in the wrong hands. Especially if you have all four, being able to change the world in Crow's words if accomplished. They've also been kept in locations that we already know a bit on as well. The academies. See, the schools aren't just there to train every new line of future huntsmen and huntresses, but the buildings themselves were built to guard each relic, the many warriors at the schools serving as protectors, unknowingly, defending such incredible power that was kept out of sight and out of mind from the general public, who may have used them for selfish means or even sparked a war in hopes of attaining these gifts if such items were common knowledge. Obviously, this all screams similar to the situation with the maidens, who were also kept hidden to protect their power and avoid possible conflict. Also, Crow mentioned that Osprey's predecessors built the academies, but according to the man himself last episode, he helped build the one in Mistral. So it seems Ozpin recalls his distant former self, likely the wizard, as the creator of the academies, the creator of the huntsman and huntress official profession, and was the original protector of these relics. This explains in greater detail now why Beacon was attacked. Not just to stir up the negative emotions to bring in the Grimm, or to silence Ozpin and cause division between the kingdoms, but to also destroy the stronghold that was guarding the relic. Though thankfully it seems Beacon's relic is out of Salem's hands, because if she had them all, it won't be good. We'll come back to Crow's latest lesson in a bit as we switch over now to Menagerie and the Belladonna household, with little Miss Blake outside her father's office and Carly appearing with refreshments. There's a bit of levity with Blake countering Carly's comment about fathers always having time for their daughter, with a bit of a jab at Papa Schnee's inability to do so, but the elder cat girl sees to giving Blake a push to go chat with her father, despite looking a bit hesitant, before leaving to hear some stories about Blake's former team from Sun. It's nice to see Carly so understanding on Blake's weaknesses when it comes to socializing, and being quick to offer some loving, comforting support, as well as being happy to hear about her daughter's friends and adventures. Hopefully she gets to meet her friends, as I imagine she'd get along with them well. Yes, even Weiss. Blake's still nervy, but she does head in, and the pair of father and daughter begin a charming yet very awkward moment together. They really do feel like family that's been apart for a long while, and are trying to take things one step at a time, even with a bit of typical father talk when it comes to Blake's attire and her lack of protection or coverage. It sounds very natural to both characters, and their bond. Plus Aaron and Ken do wonderful work making it sound even more honest and human. Though yeah, I think Blake's clothes do the trick. I don't think she needs much in the way of protection. Oh, right. Anyway, it's here where the floodgates start to open for Blake. Her parents have been so warm welcoming her back home, and yet she's surprised by it, especially given how the last conversation went between them all. Yeah, it seems like the last time Blake was with her parents, it ended poorly, when Garrett and Carly left the White Fang, and yet Blake stayed, despite things beginning to change in the faction. The pair's decision didn't go down well for Blake, who even called them cowards in her outburst. Yet now Blake sees that they were right to leave. That's why she's so shocked at this open reception she's had since she got back, and why she was so nervous returning home, expecting a sour reception and not one full of love. Garrett calms Blake down with words of comfort about how proud he is that Blake pulled herself away from the dark path that the Fang was leading her towards, as well as taking a brand new path that still put her towards challenges which she's been coping well with in his eyes, like becoming a huntress and facing her demons. Though Blake does say that she didn't do it alone, she of course had friends. It's a truly heartwarming scene that again shows some great connection between Blake and her family. And I'm sure it will do Blake a lot of good hearing praise for the hurdles she got over. Naturally, she still has a lot of challenges ahead of her though, especially when it comes to those she left behind. Though before we finally hear some explanation at last about why she ran away from everyone, the sun breaks through. Literally. Dan teases you with the RWBY. Oh well, at least let's us switch back over to Crow and Team Ranger, who are still trying to accept this larger-than-life conflict brewing in the shadows. Jean again being the major source of questions and debate, now asking why all of this isn't public knowledge, as well as Nora pipping in on why they aren't making a bigger effort to get to Haven. Crow at least eases fears in that regard, saying that after the events in Beacon, the headmaster in Haven will likely be preparing for an attack on their end, and their foes will likely need time to mount their next move with enough force to succeed, so the heroes do have a window to make the most of currently. As for Jean's question, well, we already know the answer to that. The same reason why the maidens were kept a secret. If it was common knowledge, the people would be hunting the relics, and it could even cause some chaos and bring in a brand new war that this time would involve the current generation. Like Osmond has said many times in the past, they must avoid a panic, especially with the Grimm ready and willing to feast on any negativity. Thankfully, Crow is wise on Salem's scheme to divide the kingdoms by using others, while being an unknown entity, so when the fingers start pointing, it's on the other kingdoms, not her. She can then act on and try to capture the relics. No Crow spies the moon during this bit, by the way, which will no doubt lead to more speculation about whether or not Salem's domain is on the moon. The next plan of action is a little fuzzy, what with Salem's location unknown. But after Beacon, the good side should be looking into precautionary measures. Atlas, for example, being on high alert, ready for some more action, while Vacuo is, well, as you'd expect for a kingdom rich with thieves and scoundrels, they would be hard to convince to face folk of a similar nature. But Crow and the gang do have that lead on Cinder mentioning Haven in the past, so that's the next destination without a doubt. Hopefully with the Headmaster's aid, though communication between him and Crow is poor even before Beacon's fall, it seems. Not sure if that's teasing the Headmaster has fallen too, or perhaps he's been replaced or even turned traitor. But we'll know soon enough. RWBY, the ever-burning fire of hope, is willing to do whatever she can to help, even if this all still seems kinda crazy to her right now. But she does want the matter about Crow not divulging this information sooner, as well as his distant role being addressed, even if Crow himself isn't too fond of the idea. Turns out, it's because of his semblance. No, not his transformation into a bird. Turns out the Drunkle actually has something else as his unique ability, and it's one that he can't control. It's a passive semblance that brings bad luck, akin to the bad omen tied to his name. I wonder with how Crow discusses his name here that perhaps he wasn't initially named Crow. Perhaps he was renamed after his bad luck semblance became notable. Crow being a walking bad luck charm works great against his enemies, see when he made Tyrion fall into the house last episode thanks to the broken support beam, but around allies and friends and family, he can bring misfortune to them as well, like the beam that nearly squashed RWBY. That's why he's so distant and fights solo, better alone in combat or otherwise as much as possible, so he can avoid those he cares about getting hurt, or worse. And of course, that instantly adds new fuel to the fire regarding Summer Rose's death. People have wondered, myself included, if Crow was around or involved in whatever happened with Summer, and now It could be that Crow's bad luck ended up leading to Summer's death. That could explain why Crow's picture of his former team has a mug stain over Summer, a hint to Crow perhaps blaming himself. Not to mention it could explain why he's so close to RWBY, perhaps seeking to make up for the past by helping RWBY's future, though only just enough to avoid anything happening to her as well. After finally opening up about such a depressing topic, Crow opts for some time alone, but not before ruling out anything else he needs to talk about, like perhaps the peering eyes of Raven hovering close by, or perhaps his past with Summer. Man alive, that was a lot to take in, but we still got a lot to go, so let's get back over to Casa Belladonna, with Blake getting really steamed and slap happy at Sun for intruding on her moment with Gira. Fairly, I might add, of course, but it does show how emotionally charged Blake is right now. As to why Sun ruined the moment, well, it's something in his chat with Carly about the white fang that rubbed him the wrong way. But straight away, Blake wants none of what he's saying. She came to Menagerie to rest, clear her head, and see her family. She wants nothing to do with the fang or anything else right now. But even then, Sun mentions that despite the white fang members not wearing masks in this Faunus Haven, he took a picture of someone wearing one in town. Despite Blake's dismissive attitude, something is going on. Blake may not want to be involved with the White Fang right now, but it's not stopping the White Fang forcing her hand. Especially when they're being spied on. Cards on the table, this has to be Ilya, the Fang member that the Albane twins name-dropped previously that Blake seems to know. It looks like she's keeping track on Blake now that the Fang knows she's here, and now that her cover's blown, she's hightailing it, with Blake and Sun in hot pursuit. And as if things weren't already looking to be heating up already, the episode ends with Ranger waking up to Crow looking very rough, and coughing up purple blood. Yep, he was poisoned, and Ranger need to find help, quickly. For one of the longest episodes in the series, it sure as hell felt jam-packed. One of the most information-filled episodes, and a lot of it is without question some very interesting elements. A lot of it thanks to some wonderful merging of the World of Remnant style of explanation and presentation for an in-show lesson. As I said before, I am very glad to see more depth given to the world, with religion finally getting a look into, with a better understanding as well of some key factors that will play into the future conflicts, like with the relics. I don't agree though with what some people are saying that the relics now devalue the maidens, as you have to remember that the maidens weren't a product of the gods, but one of the wizard, and without the limited exploration of the wizard, we don't know currently why Salem is looking to make use of them as much as the relics, outside of just wanting to overpower her foes. There is a lot to take in right now in terms of key plot elements and powers, but it's explanation that is stable for me right now, and the major ones like the relics will play into the game steadily, I hope, as they've only just been now explored slightly. The great thing though about this episode is, as much as it was an expedition heavy one, the character development and expression side of things wasn't sacrificed for it. The reactions of Team Ranger to everything they've learned was spot on, especially with RWBY not getting all of it right away, but still keeping hopeful, and definitely on Jean, having far more venom to his tone, seeing clearer what led to Pyrrha's death and being kept in the dark. Same praise goes to the fascinating look at last into Crow's character, with another example of how a semblance embodies a character's personality and story so well. And it was also definitely entertaining and rewarding seeing the bonding moments with the Belladonnas. My only real gripe isn't that big, but I did feel that Sun's intrusion could have been played a bit more seriously, so as not to feel so jarring a whiplash of emotions, especially with Sun's urgent topic. But it did okay working in with Blake's denial about the White Fang issue and her bumpy relationship with the Monkey Boy. For the voice acting praise of the episode, I loved everything from the trio of Aaron, Kent and Tara as the Belladonna trio. But I do want to highlight Miles Luna's excellent touches with Jean's conflicting emotions that has already built an intriguing relationship forming between him and Crow, who was also very well performed by Vic. All in all, it was a definitely strong episode to send off 2016. an excellent approach and look into some necessary information, as well as more wonderful human emotions being brought out to a top-notch level. I'm looking even more excited now for the next episode following this, and not just because it might come out on my birthday next week. But as ever, those are my feelings and opinions. Let me remind you though to share yours in the comments down below. While you're at it, like and favorite the video if you wish to, and hit that subscribe and bell buttons to get every new upload as they come out. You can also follow me on Twitter at ThatKaitoDan to hear more about future uploads, RWBY stuff, and more. But for now though, I'll see you all next time. So until then, have a good day or good night, and peace out.